Welcome to Get Real with Brian Stuckey, an all-new program to get you real information about how real estate affects you, your family, and your community. Brought to you in part by Bankers Network Corporation. And now, Brian Stuckey.
Good evening and welcome to Get Real. I'm Brian Stuckey and I've got a fantastic program for you this morning. In the property page segment, I have coming back Tracy Pina. She's going to be talking about what's going on in the real estate market today. There's some exciting things we're going to find out. And then by the numbers segment, I have Eric Gravnik. He's with Rossi Hammerslaw, Reichl and Chuck. He's an attorney, and a lot of people have been thinking about doing loan modifications or already have, and we're going to be talking about that and also short sales. So I'm looking forward to talking to Eric about that. And then in the Spotlight 7, I have Joe Gagliardi. He's a promoter, but he was a commissioner of the California Baseball Association as well. He's going to be talking about the possible move of the A's moving to San Jose. We're going to see if that makes sense. And then Rena Salomen, she's going to be in the lifestyle segment, and many of you know her from the Angel in a Hummer tag that she's got from doing a lot of great work during the Katrina catastrophe and also what's going on in Haiti. We're going to be finding out what she's doing today. But first, we're going to go ahead with the property page segment with Tracy Pina. Coming back to our program is Tracy Pina. I was asking her how many times you've been on, about 8 times or something like that. So
it's always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure having you. But Tracy, we're going to go ahead and talk about what's going on in the market. A lot of stuff going on, with changes. I think that the government's still going ahead and giving tax incentives for buyers coming to the market and everything else. But before we go into that, what is in general the market? Is it buyer's market, seller's market? What's going on? Okay, so if you look at the big picture for Bay Area real estate right now, what I'm seeing is lots of buyers out there. So it's a great time to sell. Still, the activity is dependent on the price point, which I think we've been talking about for a couple years now. Yeah, forever. Yeah, but what we're seeing is we really feel like we've reached the bottom in most price points. Only the high end is still coming down a bit. So still some time there. If you're thinking about moving up, it's a good time to sell, maybe jump into a short-term rental and then move into the high end closer to the end of the year. Okay. The good news right now is rates are really good, and so your buying power as a buyer, which obviously you know as a lender, is very strong this year, and from everything I'm hearing, it's going away next year. So good time to buy. So anyway, but we expect to have the incentives, the government incentives and everything continuing for the rest of the year. Yes, but the government incentives only actually affect a smaller percent of the market. Okay. Then, it's good for all of California, but in the Bay Area, because of the good money that people make here, a lot of people don't actually qualify as easily for the good government incentive programs. Okay. I don't want to act like I understand what you mean by price points. I've heard different things. So why don't you explain that for the person that picked up on that? Okay, so I would say anything under 800,000 is moving very well. Okay. I think that what I've seen is the lower price point. So if you're looking at the 300, 500, they have hit bottom and they've bounced up. Okay. So if you were looking at a home in the 600,000 price range, 8 to 9 months ago, you probably could have got something at 550, where now you're looking at 6 to 650 because that market's come back up because of market demand. Okay. Now, what are short sales? I know we're going to be talking with Eric Gravnik coming up in the next segment, and we're going to touch on short sales. What's your experience with short sales out there right now? Are they still predominant? They're coming. So our expectation is we're going to see more short sales and less REOs because the banks have finally realized that short sales are a good thing. They've got great agents out there to help get them the houses sold. For a lot of reasons, it costs them less money than to foreclose on a property. And so I'm encouraging buyers to not rule anything out. Look at REOs, but look at short sales, look at regular, and just find a home that works for you and then work on getting into it. Okay. Now, what's the strategy with someone like yourself, who represents buyers, whether you do an REO, a short sale, or just a resale, a standard resale? When you sit down with people, what are kind of some of the things that you're showing them, before they get pre-qualified and everything else, assuming that they are qualified? What determines which route you're going to go in any of those, whether it's short sale, resale, or REO? I don't rule anything out. Okay. Whether it's an investor or just a buyer that wants to buy into a great neighborhood, I don't rule anything out, and that's my philosophy is don't
overlook something, don't have the fear of, oh, I don't know if I want to go the REO route.
But they're not thinking like there's one that's better than the other as far as what a buyer's thinking. Like I can get a better deal if I do a short sale.
So buyers tend to have that impression, like, oh, the REOs are a good deal. I just want to look at REOs. The reality is the banks aren't giving properties away. They're having independent broker opinions done on the value of the property. And so the agent that lists the home will tell them, this is what I think you should list the home for. The bank will then do their own evaluation and they'll come together on the price. And so they're not necessarily screaming deals just because they're related to the banks. So I think you have to be careful in going with that philosophy, like I'm going to get a good deal if I go that route. I've had one buyer that actually got a good deal and everybody else pays about market rate.
Okay. So the bottom line is you should just sit down and listen to what you have to tell them, because you might say that, I know that you have that mentality, but maybe we should consider something.
Yeah, I think the key is just know you've got a lot of negotiation power, unless it's multiple offers, but then you just rely on your agent that they're going to do the best job for you and get you the best possible price.
And I know that's what you do. That's what I hear around the block here. So Tracy Pina has been my guest. She's with Intero Real Estate Services. If you have any questions for Tracy or any of my guests, please get a hold of me, Brian at 4bestloan.com or 408-269-8366, and I'll make sure I make that connection with you. I want to thank Tracy for being my guest, and next we got coming up in the By the Number segment, Eric Gravnik, and what they're going to be talking about modifications and short sales. We'll be right back. My guest is Eric Gravnik. He's with Rossi, Hammerslaw, Reichel, and Chuck. I'm getting really good at that since I've had you and a couple other associates over. But Eric, you know, loan modifications and short sales are definitely the hot button items out there, you know, I guess over the last couple of years now. So, but I want to go ahead and talk about loan modifications because I wanted to have you on a month ago. We couldn't quite schedule it, but you know, there's some things about loan modifications that people should know, changes that have been made. Why don't you explain that?
Well, last time we came in about loan modifications, we were talking about the new Obama plan that had come up about a year ago this time. And since then, there have been a lot of people trying to do loan modifications, some successful, some unsuccessful. The problem that most people have found recently is that people were charging upfront fees to do loan modifications for people. This is something that they could do themselves, and the people really weren't doing anything for them. So in late October, the California legislature passed emergency legislation that prevents anybody from charging upfront fees for a loan modification. Now that includes real estate agents, real estate brokers, and attorneys such as myself. So anybody that's looking to do a loan modification, if you're looking to do that, do not pay anybody up front, whether it's attorney or anybody under any circumstance.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, since I'm in the business, I used to have a lot of people call me up, my clients. They were just saying, look, you know, so-and-so, my wife just lost her job, and I don't know about my job security, so on and so forth, and we're going to go in the tank. Can I get modified? You know, and one is that we didn't know enough about to do that, to modify them, but at the same time, there wasn't much success out there. But you know, it's just a travesty because, you know, a lot of these people who started their modification businesses, you know, they need to make their own money, whether they were in the mortgage business or whatever, and they did exactly what the clients could do anyway. But the thing about the whole process is that nobody got successfully modified unless they're making late payments. And how are you supposed to go ahead and explain to somebody that they need to start making late payments on that? But, doggone it. I hate to do this, but I need to go back. I never stop, but I'm blabbering on. I lost my train of thought.
You're into a good lead up, and I had the answer.
I know. I just need to let you go with it. It's just, I haven't done this in years.
By the numbers, we'll start there?
Yeah, start with the by the numbers. I apologize. I just need to let you run with it. You know, I found myself just shoveling, getting deeper and deeper, and just going like, I don't even know where I'm going now.
Yeah, the point you're heading in is that you're required to be late on payments. By the time a loan mod doesn't get put through,
Now you're late on your payments.
now you can't recover.
That's right.
Stand by.
Yep, sorry about that. So we're going right from,
Yes.
just from the very beginning.
Okay, from the beginning of the segment.
Great.
Yes. You want him to come forward? Just a tad. That's it.
My guest for the By the Number segment is Eric Gravnik. He's with Rossi, Hammerslaw, Reisel, and Chuck. He's an attorney there. He's been on before. We talked about loan modifications before, but I want to do once again because there's been some changes in loan modification legislation. And why don't you explain that a little bit? We were talking about the Obama plan before, Eric, but what changes are going on right now?
Yeah, previously, we talked about the Obama plan, which set up a program for people to get into loan modifications who were distressed homeowners and needed some help. That occurred about a year ago. Since then, with that program brought out the thieves in the industry, where people were coming out with loan modification companies claiming to help homeowners and charging huge fees and doing nothing. So in October of 2008, the California State Legislature passed emergency legislation, and what that legislation provides is anybody doing a loan modification or any way negotiating a loan on behalf of a homeowner cannot charge any fees up front. So the important thing to realize is that when you're going to do a loan modification, if someone's asking for money up front, and I don't care if that's a real estate agent, a broker, an attorney such as myself, they can't do it. Even attorneys such as myself are trying to provide legal advice and legal services in that regard. I can't charge money up front.
Yeah, I got asked by a lot of different people if I would modify their loans. I didn't know really what to do. We actually did successfully, like you said. People can do it on their own. And I will argue this, is that a lot of people that took up, like you mentioned they were thieves and stuff. In essence, they are, but there's some people that actually, people don't like to wash their own car either. And so they would have these people do what they could do anyway. But here's the problem, is that most modifications were because successful ones, they would be advised to make late payments and everything else. But then there's some ramifications for that, is there not?
There is, and it becomes a catch-22 because for the most part, even though lenders want to do the loan modification, even under the Obama plan, you had to be late to qualify for a loan modification. So a borrower who is current on their mortgage has a tough decision to make, because they have to make a decision either keep making payments, keep their loan current and not be able to modify the loan, or stop making those payments so that the lender puts them in a default path which allows them to do the loan modification. The problem is that most of these loan modifications take up to 6 months to get done. At the end of that 6 months, when you tack on all the late fees, the interest, if the loan modification doesn't go through, the borrower or the homeowner is in a very tough situation, is that they can't make up that payment. They can't cure it and go forward with a loan. They're stuck with the situation. They may go into foreclosure.
Yeah, no, it's an ugly situation, and there's nobody, I could never sit down and tell them, yeah, start making late payments. But if you have to say at the same time, that's the only way you're going to get noticed. And then the long-term ramifications can be awful too. So is there any way that people that already paid these fees, they already did pay these groups to go ahead and modify their loan unsuccessfully, that they can recover or recoup their those costs?
Well, there's a number of ways. One is that the borrower can file a lawsuit. Typically, they've spent less than $6,000 or $7,000, and they can do that in small claims court.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost them a lot of money, but oftentimes these loan modification companies are out of county in Southern California. That makes it difficult because they're not going to go down to Southern California to do this. You can hire an attorney, but let's face it, the people who are in the loan modification scenario and that didn't have the money to make their mortgage payment probably don't have the money to hire an attorney to go after them. However, there are remedies there. As you can contact the California Department of Real Estate, you can contact the district attorney's office in that locale, and they can help it because they're really looking to enforce the laws against these type of people.
There's some real injustices with that. Let's go into short sales, because I do want to cover a little bit about that. I didn't have a chance to go to your Facebook page or anything else, but you mentioned there's a lot of activity on short sales that the public should know about. What are they? Well,
when doing a short sale, and this kind of ties into a loan modification, what I think is important in the beginning is attempting to find a real estate professional broker. And a lot of them right now will help you do a loan modification for free. And why that is helpful is that if you have a real estate agent or broker who, one, can help you in a loan modification, and two, is experienced in short sales, if that loan modification doesn't work out, that agent's in a position to help you then attempt to do a short sale to avoid a foreclosure. They already have your information, it's already packaged, ready to go to the lender, And it's a win-win in that scenario, even though it's really a loss because you're in a short sale or a foreclosure. But at that point in time, it's your only options.
Okay. Now, the only thing that when you ever see a modification and short sale together in the same sentence, it goes back to what we were talking about credit issues. Is if a lot of people that were advised to go ahead and do a modification, they were told to make, late payments. Now all of a sudden they want to do a short sale and they can't qualify to go ahead and do that because their credit's not good enough. Do you find that?
Not necessarily, because credit doesn't really have an effect on the short sale per se to close it. Where it happens is the missed payments, and then the short sale has a negative impact on the borrower's credit. But the fact that these people are in a short sale scenario probably means they already have poor credit. So that's not the specific issue. It's more of getting people in a situation where you can get something done before a foreclosure occurs, because the most important thing borrowers need to understand is what are my ramifications either after a foreclosure or after a short sale. I may be liable for a deficiency on the amount that is short. Am I going to have tax ramifications? So we always advise, both for brokers and for the borrowers, is before you even go down the short sale path, before you go down these paths when you know you're getting in trouble, is go see a real estate attorney, go see a CPA, and if necessary, a bankruptcy attorney, so you know what you're dealing with before you get down there and you don't have very adverse situation at the end that could have been avoided by a different strategy.
You know what? Where you get kind of a little confused in what you're talking about is that when we said borrowers, you're actually talking about the homeowners.
Correct.
Okay, so that's where I got a little confused on a purchase, because I was talking to Tracy about that. So what the homeowners need to be concerned about in both scenarios, that look at if a modification works with the bank so you can hold on to your property, or if you need to go ahead and do a short sale.
Correct. And
Okay.
with an experienced broker or an experienced agent, they can look up front and see whether or not you're going to qualify for the loan mod, and maybe that doesn't make sense for you from the get-go.
Okay. Is there anything about other things about short sales that the public should know that could make them easier? Because they're definitely not that short. They have been dragging on for a little bit. Is there anything that's going on in the process to make them actually shorter?
The most important thing they can do is find an agent or a broker who is experienced in doing short sales. There's a lot of people out there advertising themselves as distressed sale agents, but to find somebody that's done them before, has experience in closing short sales, and preferably an agent or a broker has experience in closing a short sale with the particular lenders that you have.
Okay.
Because different lenders deal with short sales in a different manner. So if somebody has experience with that lender, they know how to package your information, get it through, and that's going to speed up that short sale process.
Great. So experience, there's no greater thing than that.
Exactly.
On this situation. My guest has been Eric Gravnik. He's with Rossi, Hammerslau, Reichel, and Chuck, and he's an attorney there. And if you have any questions for Eric or any of my guests, please get a hold of me at brian@forbestloan.com or 408-269-8366. I want to thank Eric for coming on the program. Next, we got in the Spotlight segment, Joe Gagliardi. We'll be right back. My guest is Joe Gagliardi, and boy, he's pretty well known in this area. He's a promoter. He was a boxing promoter for many years. He's the commissioner. He was the commissioner of the California Baseball League, of which the San Jose Giants were a part of, and you recently stepped down from that.
Yes, I did, Brian.
Are you happy about that? You get to work out more at the gym?
Yes, I am, Brian. Frees up a little more of my time, which, I've been on the job 29 years, and
Yep.
I felt, that's enough time. So, I've enjoyed every bit of it, but now it just is, I pay attention more to my boxing business and being in the closed circuit promotions. And of course my youth programs as far as baseball, is Pony League and stuff like that. So no, I'm very actually happy.
Yeah, I can tell you that, your name is, we used to play Gagliardi's, and I don't know, doesn't matter what level. I don't know how many teams you've sponsored, in youth baseball and
Right.
everything else over the years. I mean, you must have a large budget for that, in order to sponsor
Not too much anymore, okay? 'Cause
Well, I want to talk about specifically the idea of the Oakland A's moving their operation to San Jose. And it's interesting because, I've always wanted to ask you this question. You've never been at liberty to discuss it. But why are you at liberty to discuss, and what are your feelings about, just in general, that idea anyway?
Well, being in the business in the position that I was, that I didn't think it was fair, because the situation's been ongoing for a number of years, and I've kept, really kind of very quiet about it, because there's several several situations that really basically arise as far as from the politics of, what's really going to get done, all right? And so now I'm at least, I'm not really in any position, and I'm a citizen
no
of
conflict of interest.
I don't feel that I have any particular conflict of interest. I'm just like the ordinary guy sitting out over there that has opinion on, really, you like what you would like to see. So
Okay.
that's where I can come from, and so being born and raised here, in San Jose, I'm kind of a little partial to the area, and so you want to see better things happen for the citizens of San Jose, and so.
Well, with that being said, though, we've seen the success of the Sharks of having a team there. Building that arena. By the way, this we're going to have the rounds, the NCAA basketball rounds here. So there's a lot of benefits. All the businesses are pretty happy there as a result of that. All the different activities going on at the arena. Now, would that be the same thing that we would see if we built a stadium here and the A's actually could come here?
I don't think there's any question about it. From a marketing standpoint, it really does make sense. We do have the Sharks. They've done a tremendous job, especially marketing their program. Not only, their souvenirs and everything else, that their logo is really very famous internationally. There's a number, again, a number of things that the Sports Authority, by having with San Jose State bringing the first phase of the March Madness, program, and just a number of things. Lou Wolf, even with the soccer deal in the stadium to bring, the soccer fans, some, very good soccer. But at the same token, okay, this area is deserving of a major league franchise. It would only complement it because the marketing areas between San Francisco and San Jose is kind of a natural one. Okay, they've always been very competitive with each other, and I understand where the Giants are basically coming from as far as the territorial issues are concerned and everything else. But San Jose is deserving of a Major League Baseball franchise. Okay, that's my personal particular opinion, and and again, it's not from a league perspective, because that decision, which I basically know, is really going to come from the Major League Commissioner's
The commissioner,
office.
Bud Selig.
And that's why it isn't one to go really step into to try to be taking sides or what, because from the marketing standpoint, or what the rest of the owners basically see, if they feel the commissioner is right in his thinking, and they politically deal with the subject as far as territorial issue between the A's and the Giants, that's where it's going to basically get done.
Well, then isn't the talk about even having a stadium here like putting the cart before the horse? Because it's what if they make all these plans and everything else and they get shot down? Is that just the way it operates?
No, I know. It's always nice. I hate to say this, but I remember I went through that scene a number of years ago when trying to take a vote here in San Jose as far as Major League Baseball. Just as I told a number of other people back then, which was at least probably 15 years ago, you got to put your foot forward. Go with the stadium, and when you have a nice product, a nice stadium, okay, for people to come to, that gets the listening ear of other major league owners, okay? So, but the big deal is we have a marketplace here. And I think you might have heard talk about the major league owners now. Each year that the local teams, or the major league team, can choose what league that they might want to belong to. But see, I think the San Jose, San Francisco rivalry, if they were even in the same league, would benefit all parties.
Well, we're going to see if that happens or not. Joe, we got to stop there.
Okay.
But I'd love to have you come on and see, especially as we progress here, and see what your thoughts are. My guest has been Joe Gagliardi, and he's, if you have any questions for Joe, please get a hold of me at brian@4bestloan.com or 408-269-8366, and I'll make sure that I'll get your questions or comments to them and make that connection. Next up, I have in the lifestyle segment. I have Rena Salomen, who is the angel in the Hummer. We'll be right back. My guest is Rena Salomen. She's well known, I guess. I want to say just not nationally, Rena, but you're probably internationally known at this point as the angel in the Hummer for all your efforts that what you did there in during the Katrina catastrophe and everything else. And and there was an article I have here in the Mercury News. Says, first of all, you became a U.S. citizen, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So foregone conclusion that you were going to do that anyway, I imagine.
At some point, finally.
And all I have to say is, in reading this article, is a wonderful article. It doesn't go through everything, but it's like from this. What I'm curious is that what initially started you to go ahead and when you found out about what happened in Katrina. Obviously, you're wired differently than most people because as soon as you heard about that, other people could just say, "Boy, that's too bad." They pray about it, or they do whatever, or they send money. But you got up and you got in your car and you took off. What was your thought process?
Well, on my 21st birthday, my son was diagnosed with cancer, and he had a 50-50 chance of living. And through the night, the doctors told me just hold him and pray. He may survive, he may not. And all I remember was crying all night long, begging God, give me my son's life, and I'll forever serve you. And I think that's where it was born, that evening, that night.
Okay, so that's where you're wired that way. So whether it be your faith or anything like that.
Right.
So, but why this event? I mean, was there other things that you just always had a history of this, or was it this just really triggered something special?
No, this has been going on for most of my life since that day.
Okay.
I've always had this bleeding heart for everybody. I feel their pain and I just want to stop it. So if there's something I can do, or even if I'm not qualified to do it, I've always attempted to. And with Katrina, the hardest part for me was watching the women wading through the water, carrying their children or begging for help before their children died. So that hit an emotional chord with me that just made me act immediately. I loaded my vehicles within 2 hours, and my godson, nephew, and son went with me. We drove straight through 33 hours.
Wow. And so when you got there, they hadn't had any really government plans on how they're going to do this. You probably didn't have any roadblocks. How was that going through that? It must have been like...
It was really difficult. Originally, we had signed on with Homeland Security to be part of the search and rescue teams. I drive a 57-foot boat, plus I'm a contractor, so I figured I could get in there and move the boats around pretty quick and free people out of the homes. At 6 a.m., they told me that they weren't going to send us in because people were being shot at. At that point, I made a decision just to go behind the line myself. So I got boats, ropes, and RVs, and
that's where your faith came in, because whether you get shot at or not, I'm sure.
My exact words was, their life means no less than mine.
So now here's the thing is that, I want to also cover Haiti and stuff, but I want to make sure the impact of the person that the people see on the screen right now is that have somebody say, look, when you see her jump on her boat, she's the one you want to be with. And they didn't mean just the fact that you were rescuing them in that moment, but you did much more than that. You brought families over here and make sure you took care of them to an even greater extent, even you started an orphanage there. So why don't you tell people just what else has gone on besides just the initial
Well, I think one of the largest
impact
dynamics in disasters that I've found, and it's relative regardless the country or the type of disaster, is the homelessness. Their homes are destroyed. There's no potential immediate arrangements made with our government or their governments to rebuild anytime soon. So with Katrina, I brought 14 families back. They lived in my home. It took 3 months to get them cars, apartments, furniture, clothes. We had to rebuild their lives. And in Haiti, similar, I went to Haiti to locate an orphanage that had been struck by the earthquake, and 16 of the children did not make it out. So I flew the same day I got my passport. 3 days later, I left to Haiti and went to the top of a mountain, took the children down from there and got a facility where I'm housing them now, but I'm actually in the process of purchasing land to build my own orphanage to keep them.
I don't want to confuse the two, the Haiti and the Katrina. Let's go back and do that clip, Walter, if you can get that clip going for us about, this is a clip from the Katrina. And if we can see that just for a little bit, just to remind people about what exactly had happened there that was devastating.
Like so many, when she saw the awful images of Katrina on TV, she was horrified. But she was inspired to act.
just ripped at my heart that I couldn't watch those women go through that, and I needed to get there to help them.
2 days after Katrina devastated the Gulf Coast, Rena packed some friends and relatives into her Hummer and
So that's a quick clip of you. It showed you right there with in your car, and eventually, if we would have saw you pulling people out and everything else and that. So that's a fresh look, and again, aside from rebuilding Louisiana, New Orleans, and everything else, you've been instrumental in rebuilding the lives of people. So I want to go back to that because you still have an ongoing thing going with people from Katrina. Then I want to segue into the Haiti thing. So.
Okay, with Katrina, I brought 14 families back to the Bay Area to live in my home, and it took about 3 months to rebuild their lives, getting them everything they'd lost, their vehicles, their clothes, their apartments, their furniture.
Okay. And that's still ongoing.
They're my best friends. I see them every day. They come to the restaurant and eat and have lunch with me, and they work there.
All right. And then, so I want to talk about Haiti, and then if we can get that picture. Eric, do you mind grabbing that poster right there? And what with the earthquake in Haiti and everything that's going on, I mean, that's a travesty too. And we'll go ahead and bring this in. This is pictures. Go ahead. These are the photos of the 39 children. When I originally decided to go to Haiti, the day I was passported, I started working on the children that were left in the streets. That was my biggest concern. I didn't want to see them fall prey to any type of sex trafficking or further harm. The most vulnerable are the children. So I found an orphanage that had been struck by the earthquake, and 16 of the children had not made it out. So the remaining children, as well as neighboring areas that had brought their children to Simon, we had rented a facility and moved the children into it. And here's some pictures of it. I don't know if we can.
Yeah, there should be a picture of the tent with the group. You can see the sheets.
Well, you know what? Unfortunately, we are running out of time, and we can't see all the pictures on there. We'll work on that next time.
Not a problem.
We'll get it down. And I know that. So right now, we don't need people to forget Haiti. We're still not even close to being.
Not even close. Haiti was a country that didn't have much hope to begin with, and now they even have less. And the children are the future. Not to mention the entire country. But the children are suffering tremendously. Even me having the orphanage, finding resources is so limited that we're thinking about shipping them in from Miami.
Okay.
So feeding the children is very hard. Feeding the people there, the aid isn't really being handed out.
Okay. How can people help?
We have a website. It's www.angelinahummer.com. They can go there for information. It's still being developed, but we're going to start listing all the children on there and possibly allowing them to come foster into America.
So people can select a child maybe that they want to sponsor or something like that.
Absolutely.
All right, Rena Salomen's been my guest. Boy, I can spend 30 minutes with Rena, and Rena, I just want to say for a lot of people, first of all, congratulations on your citizenship, and thanks for all the efforts all the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Brian.
I want to thank all of my guests tonight. I want to thank Tracy Pina. I want to thank Eric Gravnik for coming on the program, Joe Gagliardi, and of course Rena Salomen, who is the angel in the Hummer. I want to thank you for joining us here at Get Real. Hope to see you next week. Until then, good night.